All right, so check this out. Rico, this is for you, okay? And just for clarity, before I even start the story, I just want to let you guys know that I am baffled by this story, okay? Because a Virginia governor signs medical marijuana workplace protection bill for firefighters and other public sector workers. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, Republican, has signed legislation to allow public sector workers like firefighters and teachers to use legal medical marijuana without fear of losing their jobs. The move comes days after the governor vetoed separate bills to legalize adult use cannabis sales, and the governor signed HB 149, sponsored by Delegate Dan Helmer, a Democrat, and SB 391 from Senator Stella Pekarsky. She's also a Democrat on Monday. His deadline for action on the measures. The governor, however, also vetoed a separate Senate bill on Monday that would have prevented the use of marijuana alone from being considered evidence of child abuse or neglect. Governor Youngkin vetoed the House version of that bill a month ago. As for employment protections, private workers already are protected in the Commonwealth from being fired merely for using legal medical marijuana, but Helmer, who sponsored the law 3 years ago, has said the bill unintentionally did not protect public sector employees. HB 149 and SB 391 will reflect that oversight, extending the protections to positions such as firefighters, maintenance workers, teachers who use cannabis to treat medical conditions or diseases. Employees will still be able to forbid marijuana, or excuse me, employers will still be able to forbid marijuana use on the job and take disciplinary action against any employee whose work is impaired because of cannabis use. And the proposal also will not change current law regarding federal workers. Initially, the House version of the legislation also would have included protections for law enforcement workers, but that provision was removed through an amendment and was made identical to the Senate bill. J.M. Pedini, NORML's development director and the executive director for Virginia NORML, said the new law will protect the jobs of these heroes who risk their lives to keep Virginians safe. In a quote, Virginia's firefighters, emergency service providers, and civil servants across the Commonwealth deserve the same job protections currently provided to private employees for their lawful and responsible use of medical cannabis, Pendini said. This is a very long overdue victory. Public employees testified to lawmakers during the legislative session that workers' use of medical marijuana has been beneficial, for example, replacing prescription opioids and alcohol. Joe Mirabel, a representative of Virginia's professional firefighters, for example, spoke in favor of the proposal during a committee, and in quotes, "My members have reported that they're relying on alcohol far less. They're sleeping more at home, and they're seeing other positive effects, such as reduction of joint and muscle pain without having to use opioid prescriptions," he said. Complicating the issue for many policymakers is that there's still no rapid, reliable test to detect cannabis impairment. The public sector employee protection proposal passed the Senate with strong support, most recently on a 26-13 floor vote, and also had broad support in the House, passing floor votes 78-20 and 82-17 margins. The Parental Protections Bill, SB 115, which Youngkin vetoed, would have prevented the state from using legal marijuana use alone as evidence of child abuse or neglect. It would have further provided that drug testing in child custody and visitation matters shall exclude testing of any substance permitted for lawful use by an adult under the state's alcohol, cannabis, and drug laws. A person's lawful possession of consumption of those substances, it said, shall not serve as a basis to restrict custody or visitation unless other facts establish that such possession or consumption is not in the best interest of the child. And lawmakers sent an expedited version of the proposal to the governor in HB 833, which Youngkin vetoed in early March. SB 115 had identical language, but was transmitted after the session adjourned, giving Youngkin's office more time to act. Following the veto of HB 833, Delegate Ray Cousins, a Democrat, the bill's sponsor, accused the governor of turning his back on the needs of our children and neglecting their well-being by encouraging the courts to move forward with unnecessary family separations. It's not clear whether lawmakers might attempt to override the governor's vetoes. The parental rights bill had overwhelming support in the Senate, passing a floor vote unanimously, but the House was more divided on the proposal, approving it on a 54 to 45 vote, mostly among party lines. Well, Governor Youngkin signed this into play for all of the workforce. I mean, I think this is a great thing that he did this. I'm very proud of him for doing so, but I'm still perplexed as to why he would have vetoed adult use sales if he was going to sign a bill like this. But nonetheless, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. And this is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News. What do you got to say?
Glenn Youngkin's whack. I'm just going to say it. This guy's whack. I read that story about him vetoing the bill for rec. Look, I mean, Glenn Youngkin, you're not going to like win any votes here by doing this and straddling the fence. Make a decision, pick your side. Like, go with it, dude. Like, quit trying to just jump back in the game here. This ain't double dutch.
Mm-hmm. This is Glenn Youngkin. You know, my home state of Virginia. Again, Glenn Youngkin he's flailing right now, and he's just like you said. Somebody's trying to cater to both sides. I think this just goes to show that a lot of these. Hold the debate here, Jason. Mm-hmm. Hold your tongue. Mm-hmm. A lot of these Trump acolytes, these folks that came up under Trump, they don't really have a stance on anything. They just want power and they want to be in control. Glenn Youngkin came in here on this save the children bullshit. He walked in the room and won all these votes because people were up in arms and they were fired up after Trump got them fired up. And now what happens when they had control of both houses? Both chambers in Congress, the Republicans got nothing done. Mm-hmm. And what happened when the Democrats come back in control and they offer an olive branch trying to get this moving forward 5 years after it was voted for? He vetoed it. And now he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna let you guys like have all these like little civil liberties. We're gonna throw you guys a bone here. Like, what does he stand for? If he stands for anything?
Yeah, I think this is one of those articles where we're going to get just complete agreement across all parties today. I think Saman summarized it perfectly, because what Saman is saying is, what is your North Star on this issue, and how do you rule on these, or how do you govern on these bills in a way that shows that there's something that you believe underlying that? Because while this happened, and while this is good, and while this can be argued it's positive from an incremental perspective, the article also shared that he vetoed a separate bill on Monday that would have prevented the use of marijuana alone from being considered evidence of child abuse or neglect. And so Saman really said everything that could be said, which is figure out what your position is and then act accordingly. Mm-hmm. And with the way in which this guy is straddling the fence, as Saman pointed out, nobody can tell.
Mm-hmm. I'll also mention one thing is like the real perpetration here is against this belief that cannabis holds no medicinal value. It's obvious that it holds medicinal value. It's the kind of the kicker for me was the sentence where it's, what did it say exactly? It said with regards to a use in some specific demographic, that they don't have to use alcohol as much, that they're getting better rest. And dude, this is obvious. And for anybody standing in the way of this progress at this point in time, if you control the state legislature or you're a governor of a state in some regard, and like have something to do with the way that those laws are shaped, get out of the way of the cannabis progress. This is ridiculous.
Shout out to Christopher Brady in the chat. He says, I could eat a bowl of alphabet soup and shit a better argument personally.
That was amazing.
It's pretty much it's pretty much Glenn Youngkin's decision-making process.
Yeah, but I will say this: I am glad. I am glad that he did sign this. I mean, to me, that does show some form of evolution on the subject of cannabis. He wasn't just a straight prohibitionist, so I do want to give them credit for signing this.
I don't think we give him credit. I think we point out the inconsistencies and we say that he gave this up as a way of showing that he is open and reasonable while not being open and reasonable. To me, this was like he chummed it. This was like the little chafe that he sort of put out there because he vetoed that major bill before, and so he's really dragging his feet. And so, yeah, he should call me. We could talk.
I bet.